Shabbat shalom, everyone. Shabbat shalom. Okay. Good energy in the room tonight, I think. So I'll ask the all-important question in the Hamptons on a Friday night. How was the traffic? Did we? I realized I felt bad. I didn't mention Dr. Weiss. It's even worse 10 years on. Somehow or another, every week it seems to get progressively worse. But tomorrow morning, well, with a good reason to be in shul, right? Avoid all of those things altogether. Traffic. Certain things are out of our control. That much I can say. Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It's wonderful to see all of you. And it's especially wonderful to welcome our friends, and I'd say friends, right? This is a large community of people who share a love that I deeply share in my heart and my soul with the Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion, my alma mater, the ordaining body. The only reason that I am speaking to you tonight is because of this incredible institution and the people who have built it and sustained it and ultimately love it even more than I do, which is hard to believe. And tonight we're very privileged to welcome somebody who's very special to me, very special to everybody at HUC, but I'll speak on a personal level, Dr. Andrea Weiss, who was here. We were trying to figure out whether it was exactly 9 or 10 years ago, either my first or my second summer, as part of, I think, really the first time that I can remember where we really did this in such incredible ways. And Dr. Weiss taught in our then basement, which very different these days, I think. We've made some changes. But it's still something that I told her just before we came out, that people talk about 9 or 10 years on. And to me as a rabbi, I'm always amazed if anybody remembers anything I said 5 minutes ago to be remembering something. And that is just one small example of just, again, how remarkable of a scholar and a person and a rabbi you are, Dr. Weiss. And I'm going to introduce you more formally a little bit later on and give a little bit of a personal anecdote in that time. But I just want to thank you for being here. And I want to acknowledge some of our dear HUC friends in the room. So Bert and Brenda Lehman, and Brenda, you're going to help us light candles in just a moment. It's always great to see you. And Mark Binnervid, and of course, Wendy, and John and Suzanne, and Marty and Michelle, and of course, Morris Kramer, who we always mention at this time of year. And of course, I leave the rabbi for last. Kavod, my friend John, to Rabbi Bart and Jane Shalit as well. And, in our situation here at Temple Adas Israel, HUC has been, as I said, really a part of our identity for a very long time. And it's not just in my position here, but Rabbi Morris, our Rabbi Emeritus, Rabbi Steinberg, Alefa Shalom, who led this community for so many years. As I said, the impact of this institution on the Jewish world is really beyond words, beyond anything that I can really express, other than on a personal level. That, as I said, I am so grateful to be your rabbi, and it is impossible, it would not be possible to stand here in front of all of you tonight, any night, without this beautiful institution. So we're going to learn a lot this weekend. We're going to celebrate a lot this weekend. And the one challenge I will say, which is an HUC-related challenge, we're missing our student cantor, Will. And the reason why is because he is at orientation for HUC as preparing for this year. And I realized it was not really going to be possible to have the provost and the president of the institution here and try to get Will out of his requirements. So I'll do my best to carry things in his absence, but we're very excited again to be able to celebrate Shabbat together, and we'll begin that by welcoming Brenda up to help us light and bless our Shabbat candles. We're on page 120, and just as explanation for our guests, we light 2 sets of candles and have been since October 7th. Those of us, again, here in Sag Harbor, lighting candles for us, and then lighting a second set for the hostages, who we hope will be freed and be able to light on their own soon. And Brenda, I'm sure you're well accomplished with the lighting piece, but we find it's a little tricky. Okay, then I will take care of these. So we do one for the hostages in Israel.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'tzvaso v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen. Just the extra cable going down. It's a little tricky on the corner. We'll turn now in our Sidurim and our prayer books to page 130 as we begin Kabbalat Shabbat, very top of the page. And as just one last word of connection to Dr. Weiss, one of the first things that I had the privilege of studying with her were the Psalms. And the Psalms really are the basis of all of our forms of prayer in so many deep and different ways. And one of the most important things that I learned from you, Dr. Weiss, and I use it every day that I am in a rabbinic position, is to pay very careful and close attention to the words. Sometimes we get swept up in things, right? We see things only in their totality. Sometimes we can miss really important things in the individual words, the individual lines, and sometimes just the space between them. So tonight, focus a little bit more than you might. I want to hear your voices singing, but don't forget to look on the page. Lose yourselves in the word of our ancient tradition as well. Lechu neranina, lechu neranina, lechu neranina, ladonai. Lechu neranina, lechu neranina, lechu neranina, ladonai. Naria, naria, letzoi shenu, nekadma fana betoda. Naria, naria, letzoi shenu, bizmirot naria lo. Lechu neranina, lechu neranina, lechu neranina, ladonai. Lechu neranina, lechu neranina, lechu neranina, ladonai. We're now on page 131, the 96th Psalm, Shiru Ladonai. Shiru Ladonai, Shiru Shir Chadash, Shiru Ladonai, Kol haaretz. Shiru ladonai baruch shemo, basru meyom leyom yeshuato. Shiru ladonai baruch shemo, basru meyom leyom yeshuato. Shiru ladonai, shiru shir chadash, shiru ladonai kol haaretz. Shiru ladonai baruch shemo, basru meyom leyom yeshuato. Shiru ladonai baruch shemo, basru meyom leyom yeshuato. We'll turn now to page 132, or Zarua, at the very bottom of the page. Or zarua lahatzadik, uleishre lev simcha. Or zarua lahatzadik, uleishre lev simcha. Simchu tzadikim b'Adonai, Vehodu lezecher kodsho. Simchu tzadikim b'Adonai, Vehodu lezecher kodsho. We'll turn now to page 134, Zamru Ladonai, at the very top of the page. Zamru Ladonai bechinor, bechinor bekol zimra, bachatzotzrot bekol shofar. Ahariu lifnei hamelech Adonai, Yiram hayamum lo, tevel veyoshveva. Neharot yimchahu chaf yachad, harim yiranenu. Lifnei Adonai kiva, lishbot haaretz, yishbot tevel betzedek, ve'amim b'meisharim. Yiram hayamum lo, tevel ve'yoshveva. Neharot yimchahu chaf yachad, harim yiranenu. We'll turn now to page 135, the last Hebrew paragraph, just in the middle of the page. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu veishtachavu lehakodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu veishtachavu lehakodsho ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu Adonai Eloheinu veishtachavu lehar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu veishtachavu lehar kodsho. We'll turn now to the 29th Psalm on page 136. Mizmor leDavid, Avul Adonai b'nei Elim, Avul Adonai kavod va'oz, Avul Adonai kevod shemo, Hishtachavu l'Adonai behadrat kodesh. Kol Adonai hamayim el hakavod yirim. Adonai al mahayim rabim. Adonai al mahayim rabim. Kol Adonai ba'koach, Kol Adonai behadar, Kol Adonai shover harazim, Vaishaber Adonai et arzei havanon, Vayarkidehem kemo hegel, Levanon veSiryon, Kemo ben Reimim, Kemo ben Reimim. Kol Adonai chotzev lahabotesh, Kol Adonai yachil midbar, Yachil Adonai midbar kadesh, Kol Adonai yecholel hayalot, Vayechesov yeharot uvechalo, Kulo mekavod, Kulo mekavod, Kulo mekavod. Adonai lamahabu yashav, Vayeshev Adonai melech leolam. Adonai oz le'amo yiten, Adonai yevarech et amo Shalom. We'll turn now to L'Chadodi on page 138. We'll do the first, second, fifth, and ninth paragraphs. For the final paragraph, if we're in the room, we'll rise in body or spirit and face towards the door as we walked through just a few moments ago. L'Chadodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabela. 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 Shamor bezachor bedibor echad, Ishmianu el hamiuchad,
Adonai echad u'shemo echad, l'shem u'tiferet ve'litila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, ki mekor haberacha, merosh mikedem nesucha, sof maaseh b'machshavat tchila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Hitoreri, ki ba'orech kumiori, uri shir taberi, kevod Adonai alayich nigla. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, gam besimcha u'betzola, toch emunei am segula, boi chala. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela.
Please be seated. Turn now to Tzadik Tamar, part of the 92nd Psalm on page 140, just where the Hebrew indents in the middle of the page.
Tzadik Tamar yifrach, keres bavanon yizkem shetulim bebeit Adonai bechatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu od yenuvun beseva deshenim verananim ihu lehagid ki ashar Adonai tsuri velo avlata bo.
Rise in body or spirit for the Chatzi Kaddish on page 144 and remain standing for the Baruch Hu on the next page.
Yitkadal veyitkadash shemei rabba, Amahadivrach irutei v'amlich machutei, b'chayechon uvyomechon, ub'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala, uvizman karim, v'imeru, amen. Yeshmei rabba mevarach, La'alam li'al ve'al maya, Yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitbar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal, shemei dekudsha brichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushmechata v'nechemata, tamihiran be'alma v'imeru. Amen. Baruch hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Please be seated. We'll turn together now to page 149. We'll read in English at the very top of the page. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Umahavir yom umevi laila. Umabdihil ben yom uven lahaila, Adonai tzvaot shemo, El chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, Amari v'arhavim. We'll turn now to page 151, and we'll read together at the very bottom of the page in English. Wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol. All these things your Torah gives to us. And the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. What could be a truer token of your abiding love than this holiest of your works and the living language that gives it forth? Ki yehem chayinu ve'orech yameinu, uvahem nege yomam v'lahayla, Vavatcha al tasir mimenu liolamim, Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Please join me on page 154. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol meodecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha ve'shinantam levanecha ve'dibarta bam ve'shiftecha b'veitecha Uvelechtecha v'derech, u'shochbecha u'vkumecha, u'kshartam leot ayadecha, ve'hayu letotafot bein einecha, u'chtavtam amezuzot beitecha, u'visharecha. Leman tiskeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai, v'item kedoshim leloechem, Ani Adonai Elohechem, Asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, liahot lachem Elohim, Ani Adonai Elohechem, Adonai Elohechem emet. Let's read together in English on just the next page, page 155. Love your God with every heartbeat, with every breath, with every conscious act. Keep in mind the words I command you today. Teach them to your children. Talk about them at work. Whether you are tired or you are rested, let them guide the work of your hands. Keep them in the forefront of your vision. Do not leave them at the doorway of your house or outside your gate. They are reminders to do all of my mitzvot, so that you can be holy for God. I am Adonai, your God. I led you out of Egypt to become your God. I am Adonai, your God. We'll read together, or turn to page 158, Michamocha, at the very top of the page. Yabai bai bim 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 bam, yabai bai bim bam, yabai bai bim 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 bam, yabai bai bim bam, yai bai ba 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 bai, yabai bai bim bam, yai bai ba 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 bai, yabai bai bim bam. Mi kamocha bailim Adonai. Mi kamocha nedar bakodesh. Norat hilot osefele. Norat hilot osefele. Yabai bai bim 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 bam. Yabai bai bim bam. Ya bye bye bim 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 bam, ya bye bye bim bam, ya bye 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 bye, ya bye bye bim bam, ya bye 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 bye, ya bye bye bim bam. Malachutecha ra'u vanecha, pokei yam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam zeili anu ve'amru, Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. ונאמר, כי פד אדוני את יעקב, וגולו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, גל ישראל. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up, waiting to do your will. Hashkivenu is on the top of page 160. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Ushmor tzeiteinu uvoeinu lechaim u'shalom me'ata v'ad olam. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Yerushalayim. We'll turn now to page 162, V'shamru, very top of the page. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat, לדורותם ברית עולם, עיני ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת, שבת ויהי נפש. Invite us now to rise in body or spirit. We will begin the Amidah together on page 164, and from that point on, we'll continue silently. As always, please go at your own pace, and when you're finished at the end, if you're still standing, you may be seated. Adonai tzepatai tiftachu piyai tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Ose shalom bimromav, uyase shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. Yase shalom, yase shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. We'll turn now to our Mishaberach, our healing prayer on page 371. And we'll begin by thinking of those in our community and connected to our community who are in need of healing tonight. Thinking of Madeline Egelfeld, Dan Brown, Andrew Adler, Leah Bat Avraham Sarah, Adam Lubo, Rachel Bat Marsha, Sue Wartor, Abigail Blum, Betsy Tepper, Michael Klinghofer, Ame and Warren Cass, Rivka Bat Rachel, Lorraine Danis, David Dowling, Sylvia Devora Bat Francis, Muriel Hirsch, Michelle Sawicki, Francis Kirschman, Shelley Newmark, Diana Axelrod, Gabriella Spicer, David Kyle Klopman, Lorraine Davis, Kim Birnbaum, Deborah Block-Kroll, Sylvia Orn, Rachel Bat Ora, Josephine Getling, Lisa Leviton, Peretz Ben Shlomo, Israel Ben Yitzchak, Shira Bat Eddie, and Roberta Kyle. In addition to those names that I just mentioned, if you're thinking of anyone else tonight who's in need of healing and you'd like to mention their names out loud, we'll start on this side of the room and work towards the back and this side of the room. If you have names to share, just raise a hand again if you're thinking of anyone in need of healing tonight.
The Holton Pasky family, John Graham, Diane Schwartz, Shelley and Maureen Kinney, Mario Honey Rodman, Lee Judah, Frank Ryan, Judy Button, Warren, Noreen Broden, Nietzsche, Brooke, Ross Hutcroft, and Roger Blue. Mr. Ben Bonfam, Charlie White, Susan LeBear, and Marilyn Goldstein.
For those watching at home to add the names of their loved ones as well. And if Mitch, go ahead. We're joined together in the Mishaberach, middle of page 371. Mishaberach Avoteinu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha Avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. We now offer our prayer for Israel in time of war. Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu. Our God and God of our ancestors, you know that the Jewish people are one nation with one heart, and now that heart is broken. O healer of broken hearts, binder of their wounds,
Be with our brothers and sisters who have been taken captive and with the families of the victims. Watch over the hostages, break their bonds, and bring them out from darkness to light. Proclaim the release to the captives, liberation to the imprisoned. Comfort the families, bring them under the shelter of your wings. Bring complete healing of body and spirit to all of the wounded. Bind up our wounds and grant us healing. Sur Yisrael, v'goalo, rock and redeemer of the people Israel. Bless the state of Israel, the initial manifestation of our redemption. Shield it with your care. Spread over it your shelter of peace. Guide its leaders and advisors with your light and your truth. Grace them with your good counsel. Strengthen the hands of those who defend us. Crown their efforts with victory. Bless the land with peace, its inhabitants with lasting joy. Shomer Yisrael, guardian of Israel. Strengthen and bless the defenders of Israel who stand guard on the land, in the air, and on the sea. May we see the promise of the psalmist realized. Turn my mourning into dancing, my sackcloth into robes of joy. God protect, preserve, and restore peace and well-being to Israel, your people, and together we say. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It's hard to describe, and I'm not sure everyone in this room has had this experience, probably not, but what it feels like to be a student and then to have the privilege of welcoming their teacher to come and speak to their congregation, to their beloved people. It's a true privilege. And while it feels like yesterday to me, it certainly is not. The first time that I met our guest speaker tonight, Rabbi Dr. Andrea Weiss, was in 2009. I came back from my first year in Israel. Let's just say I had no idea what I was doing at that particular moment in time. I came in as a second-year student on the HUC campus. I'd been out of college for several years, so that part of my, academic brain had, I think, atrophied a little bit. And I entered Dr. Weiss's class, and I was just looking at the syllabus again another time and trying to figure out how it was that I belonged in that class in the first place, right? I mean, I was studying from one of the truly great scholars of this age, studying material that means so much to me, and I knew for most of my life at an arm's length. And it was hard. I'm not going to lie. I went back and looked. I think she was awfully generous to me in a few of those papers that I went back to look at, a few of the translations that we worked on very early on. But as I said at the beginning, one of the most important takeaways that I got from learning with Dr. Weiss was every word matters. Every word matters. And if we're not careful and we miss that idea, dangerous things tend to happen. And it really still sticks with me. One of the things I'm most proud about of being the rabbi in this community has been the Torah scholarship that we have done together over the last 10 years. If you want to have any sense of where I learned to teach Torah, it was at the Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion. It was in classrooms with Dr. Weiss and others. I cannot state any more emphatically, I cannot state any more strongly how important this institution is, not just to me, not just to the ordinees, the rabbis, the cantors, the educators. There would not be a Reform Judaism in this country. There would not be the thousands of Reform congregations across this country. There wouldn't be all of the Reform communities around the world were it not for this institution, were it not for the people like Dr. Weiss who have dedicated their life's work to teaching the next generation so that we might teach others. So not a small thing that our community has had the privilege of welcoming some of the best and the brightest of this institution to share our space, to share our pulpit, to share words of Torah with each and every one of us. So I hope you know and I hope you understand what a privilege it is tonight and what an honor it is on a personal level to invite up my teacher in just a moment. But I need to give you an introduction beyond that personal effect. Rabbi Andrea Weiss, PhD, is the Jack Joseph and Morton Mandel Provost, and I'll explain a little bit of additional things, some changes coming as of yesterday that I learned, and Associate Professor of Bible at the Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion. She received a BA in English from the University of California at Berkeley in 1987 and was ordained by HUC-JIR in New York in 1993. She earned her doctoral degree in 2004 from the University of Pennsylvania, Department of Near Eastern Languages and Civilizations. She was also, amongst the many things that she has written, something that is very near and dear to this community and to many communities throughout the country, throughout the world, as the associate editor of the Torah, A Women's Commentary. In each of your pews tonight, if you look forward and see a green-colored book,
and you were to look at that book, you will see two names on the front of it. One of those is Dr. Weiss. And what a resource, again, that has been for our community, which every month uses it as our primary vehicle for studying Torah, and will be the reason for our Women's Torah Shabbaton next week. And I also just want to acknowledge a few of the more recent things, something that I know a few years ago that was really very important. She is the founder of something called American Values, Religious Voices, a campaign. She was the co-editor of American Values, Religious Voices, 100 Days, 100 Letters, as well as a second volume, American Values, Religious Voices, Letters of Hope from People of Faith. This was something that another time we'll bring you back to speak about. It's a conversation in its own right, but I remember reading about it and hearing from you when you were starting that work, Dr. Weiss, and it was truly, truly special to know that, again, we don't just study these texts for the sake of studying these texts. We study these texts because there is a deep yearning within our people to know that we are a part of a larger world, part of a world where we have real opportunities for impact, real opportunities for not just teaching and learning, but again, for changing lives in the most deep and important ways. So, Dr. Weiss, it is my true privilege to welcome you up to the Bima and to share some words of Torah with us tonight. And most important, I want to make sure that everyone can hear you. And if you need a glass of water, I think Josie arranged for. So, wish everyone a Shabbat Shalom, and let's make sure everybody can hear you just fine.
Shabbat Shalom. Can you? Well, Dan, I want to thank you for that such moving introduction. I say the most by far meaningful part about the privilege of being a professor, being an administrator, but particularly as a professor at HUC, is watching our students grow and develop into the extraordinary Jewish leaders that they come to us to become. And when I was as a faculty member, I always taught second-year students, and to see a student come in as a second-year student and then grow over 4 years, become ordained, and it's especially gratifying now to see you as a rabbi. It's incredibly such an honor and a pleasure to be back to this historic congregation, especially with so many dedicated, generous supporters of the Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion. I think we almost have a quorum for a board meeting here. And I also want to thank and recognize the congregation. One of the distinguishing parts of HUC is, and one of the features of our curriculum of all our programs, is the real emphasis on supervised fieldwork. So the idea that our students take what they learn in class and they get to practice it and grow and learn in their fieldwork placements. And for that to work relies on congregations who nurture our students. And he's not here today, but we just ordained in May your prior cantor, who's now a cantor. But this congregation has long had student cantors, and you play a big part, partners in the education of our students, and that they come and they become cantors, in this case, are by being here. So thank you for that. And I bring greetings tonight on this Shabbat from President Andrew Rayfeld and my colleague, Vice President of Institutional Advancement, Melissa Greenberg, who'll be here tomorrow morning with all of you. So I want to start with, you talked about words. So we're gonna start with a word, 3 words that we'll start with today that we read that are really important for this particular Shabbat. Nachamu, nachamu ami. Comfort, comfort, my people. Each summer, we recite these ancient biblical words on the Shabbat after Tisha B'Av, the day of fasting and mourning that we marked this past Monday night and Tuesday. The 9th of Av commemorates the destruction of the first temple and the razing of Jerusalem by the Babylonians in 586 before the Common Era, so about 2,600 years ago. And according to tradition, Tisha B'Av also commemorates a sorrowful litany of subsequent tragedies that fell the Jewish people in the past, supposedly on that very same day. The destruction of the Second Temple by the Romans, expulsions in England and Spain, massacres of medieval Jewish communities, tragic moments in the history of the Holocaust. 10 months after October 7th, that lachrymose list reads with a different sense of immediacy. On day 315 of the excruciating count for the release of the hostages and the end of a war that we fear may be expanding instead of reaching an elusive end, we confront our history and our present reality with a sober sense of familiarity and foreboding. And that's why we need these words this year more than ever. Nachamu, nachamu, ami. Comfort, comfort, my people. It's only 3 words in the Hebrew, a mere 8 syllables. This utterance from the book of Isaiah gives voice to what the Israelites living in exile in Babylon over 2,000 years ago needed to hear, and what Jews around the world long to experience now. In Isaiah chapter 40, God calls to an unnamed prophet and sends him on a unique mission to comfort an exiled people who've been in exile at that point for about 50 years, and to convince them that their God possesses both the determination and the capacity to bring them back to the promised land, to allow them to rebuild and renew their lives. This mission, Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami, comfort, comfort, my people, is especially striking since in the book of Lamentations, the raw reaction to the destruction of Jerusalem that we chant on Tisha B'Av repeats this refrain multiple times. Ein la menachem. There is no one to comfort Jerusalem. 50 years after Jerusalem and Judah lie in rubble, how can the prophet fulfill that mission? How can the prophet possibly comfort an exiled people so forlorn and forgotten? One way the prophet tries to comfort his exilic audience is through metaphor. And I should add this happens to be the area of my scholarly expertise and the focus of my research. So, and the particular topic I'm going to talk about is one that I've been interested in since I was a third-year student studying with Tamar Eskenazi, with whom I edited the Torah Women's Commentary quite a long time ago. So metaphor is an important way in which the prophet tries to comfort the people, and not just with a lot of different metaphors, but particularly with maternal metaphors. So what better way to try to convince people that God still loves them, no matter what happened in the past, than through maternal metaphor? So I'll give you a few examples. One comes from Isaiah 49, which quotes the exiles in Babylon bemoaning how they feel that God has forgotten and forsaken them. In response, the prophet declares, speaking in God's name, "How can a mother forget her baby, or a young woman the child of her womb?" But then the prophet adds, "Though they might forget, I will never forget you." So note how the prophet compares God to a human mother in order to try to emphasize and convince the people that there is an unbreakable bond between God and Israel, and to express God's unconditional love, and to convince them that this divine love and commitment remains intact in spite of what the Israelites may have done years ago that led to the exile. But also note how this verse tests the limits of this metaphor. As much as we want to believe that a mother would never abandon her child, we know that sometimes this happens then and now. So the prophet insists that lest there be any room for doubt, God is both like and unlike a human mother, and insists that God will never forget or abandon Israel. Toward the end of the book of Isaiah, to accomplish this mission, Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami, the prophet highlights another aspect of what it means to be a mother when the prophet declares, again in God's voice, "As a mother comforts her child, so I will comfort you." And while we find sporadic images of God as female images for God elsewhere in the Bible, it makes sense that this prophet, whose mission is to comfort the people, speaks about God as a mother more than any other biblical book. What else can we learn from this prophet about how to comfort people in a time of need? Along with the exquisite imagery that speaks both to the head and to the heart, the prophet often turns to the past to give people hope for the future. Again and again, the prophet speaks about the mythic moment of creation, about the promises made to the patriarchs, about the exodus from Egypt, these moments long ago, and then builds on them in speaking about the future. And in fact, here's a little known piece of biblical trivia that may come in handy at some point. This part of the book of Isaiah, Isaiah 51, is the only place outside of the book of Genesis that mentions the matriarch Sarah. Again, another example of how this prophet kept turning to the foundational events of the past in helping the people look toward the future. And so repeatedly, the prophet tries to convince his listeners that a better future is coming by reminding them of what they or their ancestors experienced in days gone by. I learned about the power of the past to serve as a source of comfort from my colleague, Professor Joshua Garraway, just days after October 7th. As the Los Angeles campus of the Hebrew Union College gathered in prayer that Monday morning after October 7th, horrified and heartbroken, Rabbi Garraway, who serves as interim dean on our Los Angeles campus, delivered a Devar Torah that provided a historian's perspective on the shocking events still unfolding on that day in Israel. Much like we do on the 9th of Av, Professor Garraway, who's a scholar of Christianity and ancient Judaism, recounted some of the many tragedies faced by Jewish communities of old in the ancient biblical city of Lachish, in Alexandria, in the German city of Mainz. He noted, "I often tell people that one of the great advantages of being a historian is that current events rarely surprise me. They can disgust me or infuriate me or sadden me, but they rarely surprise me because invariably we've seen them before." After quoting the biblical sage Kohelet, Ecclesiastes, who observed there's nothing new under the sun, Rabbi Garraway concluded, "I recall history not to minimize the events transpiring today. Such atrocities have happened before does not mean that we can be anything other than utterly aghast that they have happened again. But perhaps a reminder of where we've been can provide a measure of solace, knowing that our people has been through living hell before, and yet here we are. Nachamu, nachamu, ami. Comfort, comfort, my people." Another lesson that we learned from the exilic prophet in the book of Isaiah is that hope, like history, can be another source of comfort in trying times. In verse after verse, the prophet paints a picture of a positive future that stands in contrast to the people's present reality. Take, for example, one of my favorite verses in Isaiah 54, which we'll read as our Haftarah portion in a few weeks. In that passage, the prophet refers back to the promise given to Noah after the flood, declaring in God's voice, "As I swore that the waters of Noah would never again pour over the earth, so I swear that I will never be angry with you or rebuke you. The mountains may move and the hills may totter, but my loyalty will never move from you, nor will my covenant of friendship, Brit Shlomi, be broken." Here and elsewhere, the prophet aims to inspire his listeners to believe that their lives can be better, to hope that as part of God's plans, they will return to the land and rebuild their lives. I was reminded of the connection between comfort and hope last November when the Hebrew Union College in Jerusalem organized a webinar on trauma. Gadir Hani, a Palestinian citizen of Israel and an award-winning peace activist, asked the following question: "How can hope grow in these fields of blood and trauma? She answered, I honestly don't know. I'm not even sure such seeds exist, but I look around and see that we do not have a choice. Hope is the only option left for us to deal with the circle of hate that is continuously expanding. She declared, hope is the only option for those of us who live in the difficult reality that is the Holy Land. Through this immense pain, hope is not only a privilege, but an obligation. We must wake each morning and choose healing, comfort, empathy, and hope. I want to repeat those last two sentences. Hope is not only a privilege, but an obligation. And that's easier said than done, to be sure. And what's interesting, and I've done a much larger study of this in looking at the word for hope, and the root of which is in the word tikva, hope, that in the Bible, hope and disappointment often go hand in hand. And I'll share just a few verses where we hear this. In Isaiah 59, we read, we hope for light, but look, behold, darkness. Or another example from the book of Job, Job declares, I hoped for good, but evil came. So in many of these verses, we see that hope leads to disappointment. So how can we continue to hope if so often what we hope for fails to come to fruition? Psalm 27 offers some advice. This psalm, which we read daily during the upcoming month of Elul, all the way through Rosh Hashanah, the New Year, into the 10 days of repentance, that psalm concludes with the refrain that's repeated twice, Kaveh El Adonai, hope in God. And in the middle is the following line, Chazak v'ya'ametz libecha. And the grammar is there, Chazak v'ya'ametz. Cause your heart to be strong and resilient. And the message that I draw from that, and that I think is important for us today, is that hope is a muscle. We have to build up our capacity to hope, even knowing that disappointment is around the corner, knowing that what we hope for may not happen soon, may not happen ever. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. recognized the relationship between hope and disappointment in an address he delivered in February 1968, just 2 months before he was killed. He charged his followers, we must accept finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope. Now, more than ever, we as a Jewish people, like so many people around the world, we need to be comforted. Nachamu, nachamu, ami. Comfort, comfort our people. Now, more than ever, we need to cause our hearts to be strong and resilient. We need to cultivate the capacity to hope that the current situation will end, to hope that one day peace will come. May the days to come bring more light than darkness for all of us. May the glimmer of shalom, the glimmer of wholeness, connection, peace that we feel on this waning summer Shabbat evening, may that extend far and wide so that people around the world will wake each morning and choose healing, comfort, empathy, and hope. Shabbat shalom.
So you may recall, as I was offering Dr. Weiss's bio at the beginning, that I mentioned that she is currently the provost, and that as of, I think yesterday, the news went out that as of July 1st of next year, Dr. Weiss will step down as the provost and step up to being the director of the rabbinic programs altogether, right? Every program across the many campuses, and the administrative head of all of the various programs of all of the campuses, which... The seminary programs, yes. as if that needs to be qualified, as if that diminishes it in any way. It's hard to understand outside the institution what that means, but what I can tell you in short form is that the university itself, right, the college itself is in the greatest of hands. The greatest of hands. And what a lucky and privileged group it will be to continue to learn with you and to study from you, and for the whole college institute as a whole to benefit from your wisdom and your incredible patience, I would say, to really, again, bring out the very best in every student, every student. And as one last word to date myself and to realize how much time has really gone by, my last recollection of seeing your children was when they were children, and now realizing that they are probably college, close to, out of college. Okay, well, we'll stop talking about how old we are and just say how wonderful it is that your children have grown up into that. And really, Dr. Weiss, thank you again for sharing your wisdom with us. And we hope very much that we will get you back again to talk about the women's commentary in the future as well. So with that, I'll invite everyone to please rise as we turn back to our Sidurim, to our prayer books, to page 586, at the very bottom of the page, Aleinu L'Shabech. Aleinu L'Shabech L'Adon HaKol, Latet Kedula Liotzer Breshit, Shelo Asanu Kegoye Haratzot, Velo Samanu Kemishpechot Adama, Shelo Sam Chelkenu Kahem, Vegor Aleinu Kechol Hamonam, Vanachnu Korim, Umishtachavim Umodim, Lifnei Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Page 591. V'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad Ushemo echad. I ask those in mourning and those observing yahrzeit to please remain standing. Everyone else may be seated at this time. Think first of those who passed in our community in recent months. Julian Busgang, Deborah Fogarty, Richard Gambino, Lita Goldsmith, Rita Hertzfeld, Jesse Hirsch, Barbara Kushner, Robert Lykoff, Samuel Moskowitz, Jeffrey Nagelberg, James Pappas, Danielle Lisa Rigg, Janice Sambol, Harlan Spitz, Charles Spiropoulos, Susan Wolfson, Ronald Seth Tempowski, Fania Verrett, Alan Stephen Weinstein, and Ronald Weller. We also mark the yahrzeits that occurred during the last week for Simon Abraham, Isabel Becker, Monroe Bohm, Charles Danoff, Zita Danoff, Phyllis Davis, Andrew Ruben Ecker, Samuel Fichtelberg, Selma Goldman, Michael Green, Elaine Gruenstein, Seth Kaplan, Irving Kirstein, Anthony Kiprios, Lily Lenskowski, Rebecca Lifshitz, Dorothy Metzger, Joseph Palladino, Bonnie Sawicki, Martha Schlossberg, David Schulman, Carol Silber, Nathan Spitzer, Sidney Throne, Donna Toyas, David Warner, Jack Wiener, Martin Weinstein, and Irving Zaretsky. In addition to those names that I just shared, is anyone else saying Kaddish for anyone we didn't mention?
Joe Whitner, Randy Wassman, Carol Taragash.
I'll invite the mourners to join with me on page 598, and if it's your custom to rise alongside them, you may do so at this time. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. Be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael b'agala u'bizman kariv v'yimru Amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach la'alam u'li'almei almaya v'yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbarar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei d'kudsha brichu Leila min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata ta'amiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehi shalama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Zichronam livracha, may every one of their memories be for a blessing. Please be seated. Shabbat shalom, everyone.
So I'm going to make our announcements relatively short this evening so we can go next door and to enjoy our Oneg Shabbat together with Dr. Weiss and our friends from the HUC-JIR. And as a matter of fact, we're going to have that experience in our HUC-JIR social hall, named for the wonderful community of people here in our community who have supported HUC and supported us. So all of those great layers of things, which is just fabulous. And there's lots of food. So come enjoy, spend some time, get to know Dr. Weiss, and maybe I'll pull out some of my old papers from class. We'll see whether it holds up or not. Just a few other important things coming up. One is to highlight, of course, what begins tomorrow. Shabbat services starting at 10 o'clock here at the temple, and of course online as well. And we're honored to welcome President Dr. Rayfeld, who will teach our Torah study tomorrow from 12 to 1 o'clock, and of course our beautiful Kiddush lunch. And we'll invite everyone back to end Shabbat together, Havdalah, with a bit of conversation with myself, Dr. Weiss, President Rayfeld, and Rabbi Franklin, and our friends from the Jewish Center of the Hamptons. So we asked for pre-registration, mostly just so we made sure we had enough food. If you didn't register, still come. Don't worry about the registration, just come. We have plenty of food. I think we've got that covered. We'll be very happy to have you. It'll just be a nice, wonderful way again to end Shabbat and to continue to learn and continue to grow. A few other things, just a quick 6 o'clock here at the temple. Just to remind everyone again, next weekend, I can't believe it's next weekend already, our annual Women's Torah Scholar in Residence experience, in which we welcome our dear friend Rabbi Minna Bromberg, who will help to teach us again Friday and Saturday, including Torah study as well. And I know I'm forgetting many other important things, especially Monday, our Anti-Semitism Committee's sponsored event in partnership with the ADL and Shia Lerner. So that, again, is available here in the temple or online. So make sure to register for one or the other. Very, very important conversation, again, helping us to distinguish ideas of what is, again, very tough to define. In many cases, increasingly tough to define in many particular places. So to have Shia with us is remarkable. But, that line between what is anti-Semitism and what is legitimate criticism of what is happening, and historically so, in Israel. So we hope very much you'll join us, and that again is at 7 o'clock on Monday. Register either in person or online. And many other great things coming on, all of them having great merit, but just want to make sure we have flyers, we have our regular e-blast. If you're not getting it, please let us know. And I guess last one, I will just remind everyone, annual meeting a week from Sunday, 9 o'clock here at the temple as well. Okay. Anything else that I missed of major consequence? I'm sure many things, but I will invite us again in a moment to go next door. First, we're going to conclude our service, and we will turn to Shalom Aleichem, page 627. Again, page 627. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Boachem L'Shalom Malachei HaShalom Malachei Elyon Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Baruchuni l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mi melech malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu. Tzedchem l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mi melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Please rise for Kiddush, page 123. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav beratza b'hanu, v'shamat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon inchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila lemikra'e kodesh, zecher letziat mitzrayim, ki vanu b'charta
ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. Amen. Hi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Shabbat shalom, everyone. Please come next door.